Well, I think I'm back to doing normal turnings. I know the last two that I did were fairly simple, and a lot of that had to do with being really busy with something else, plus my hands were swollen up from reaction to an antibiotic and they were peeling. That's pretty much all finished off. So today we're going to do something a little more complex. It's going to be sort of a segmented turning. I've got a piece of cherry here, it's 10 by 10. I have a piece of Padauk fastened on the back side. So what I need to do is make some cuts, glue some things together, make some more cuts, and glue some more things together, and pretty soon we'll have a blank we can make a bowl out of. So let's go over to the bandsaw and you'll see the first cut. And these holes are in here for a reason, and that's for trying to locate the cuts where I want them. So I'll meet you over at the bandsaw. Alright, I'm over at my bandsaw. I think I have you set up to see what we're doing here. I'm using my circle cutting jig. I'm on the 10-inch diameter hole, and I had drilled these holes in the work. It's pegged onto that, and I'll just rotate this, starting to cut here, and I'll come out there, and then I'll take it apart and I'll glue those sections together, and we'll rinse and repeat the same thing 4 times. So I did the best I could to get the table square to the blade. It looks really good this way, and I also used the digital angle finder by setting it 0 here and then checking there. It's about as close as you can get it. So we're going to go ahead and make these cuts. This is a 1/4 inch wide blade, 10 teeth per inch. Should cut really nice. I'm going to start my dust collector and we'll find out real soon. Alright, pretty smooth cut. So now the fun begins. I'm going to get over to my workbench, get this apart, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, there we go. After I got these glued together, I looked it over. It's not quite what I had drawn up, and I really couldn't get to what I was looking for with this one. I'll probably finish the other one the way I like it, but we're going to do a little change on this. I've got to make a cut on this block and then put another one over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that cut. I'll show you how that gets glued on, and we'll be almost ready to turn it into a bowl. Okay, time to get some glue on this and get it clamped up. I get this one glued, I've got to go in and cook some fish. And I want to get the other half done, so I'll come out later after dinner and I'll cut it and get it glued on. It'll look just like this. Well, this sat all night, and I'm going to get it cut into a circle. I'll get a temporary tenon on it. We'll get it mounted up in the lathe, and I'll kind of tell you what I was thinking of and why I ended up with what I had. So I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw, make out a circle, and I'll be back and we'll have it up on the lathe. Okay, I think you can see things a lot better now that I flattened it and sanded it and cut this round. It was cherry all the way up to here. It's not what I had drawn, and this isn't either, but this was an easy way to make it, I think, a little more attractive. So that's what I've done. I'm set up with the bolt on the board jig that I made, and it works quite well. And I'll tell you more about that as we go along. And I give you some links to where you can make your own. If you have a 3D printer, it's real easy. If you don't, you can still make one. So what we're going to do is start cutting rings right here, and I like to make my cut, measure what that bottom is, and then put that dimension up here. Then I know it's going to line up. So I have this set up. I use a popsicle stick like so. That's in the center. That's 45 degrees. Simple as can be. Now these rings can come off and they can start spinning around. Since I have so many glue joints, I came up with this little cradle to catch them. So I'll put this on here, maybe 1/8 inch to 1/4 away from it, clamp it down, we'll start cutting rings. So let me get that clamped down and get my parting tool and we'll get to going. Alright, I'll point out what this parting tool is. It's a Sorby micro parting tool. And it's 2 millimeters, and it's called a 1/16 wide by 1/4 inch. I like to cut fairly slow, and you don't want to push real hard, especially as you cut through it, because it will cause it to splinter. I'm going to do about 750 RPM, and we'll start to see how it works. Looks like that pattern kind of messed with the autofocus on my camera. Sorry about that. I also sped the video up a little bit because I do like to cut this slow, and I didn't want you to have to watch all that. Alright, I gotta pull this out of the way and I can get it out. We'll do the next ring. Alright, I have the ring off and I have the piece back in, and I'll just show you that I didn't get any splintering. So what you want to pay attention to is you can hear it. It's getting really close. The sound changes. Do a really, really light cut right there. Just let it do the cut by itself, barely pushing on it, and you will not get splinters. What I'm going to do now is measure this diameter. I'm going to put it on here. That's my next cut, and that way they'll line up. I'll be right back once we have that on there. I'll put links in the descriptions for the 3 different parting tool guides that I've made, and they're not really that hard to make. That's it right there. Yep, no splintering, so we're in good shape. I'm going to get this apart, we'll get it set it up, and we need to glue it together. Pretty much with any bolt on the board, before I start cutting rings, I like to get reference lines so that I know after it's cut I want this piece to stack on top of that. Now this looks pretty symmetrical, like it could go the other way, but I never try to do that because this is how it was when I cut it. So we're going to get some glue on that, on the underside. I'll put some weight on the tube. I'll let it sit for a while, and then possibly after I get the second one on, I'll put it in the lathe and we will clamp it and let it sit the rest of the day. By twisting and pushing forward and sideways, you eventually can get everything lined up. After the piece on the left sat for about 20 minutes, I put it in my glue press. I'm going to do the same thing to the last piece here. Alright, after sitting all night and half the morning in the glue press, I now have it mounted in the chuck. First thing I want to do is make this nice and true on the outside, and then I'll true the inside up, and then we'll true the outside up, and then we'll see what kind of shape we can get here. Use a 1/2 bowl gouge, and I think we can probably get it up around 800 RPM. There, I think you get a little better look at this now. So it's really important on something you stack like this for a bowl from a board is to make sure you've got your area cleaned up and nothing beyond that, and do the outside. Otherwise you might find yourself getting real thin if you try to create a shape here and then go to the outside and find out there's nothing left. So after saying that, let's move to the outside and get it cleaned up. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. Now we're going to go back and clean the inside up, and then we'll be about ready to do some sanding. Alright, let's do a little bit of sanding here. I'm going to start with 100 grit with my 2-inch disc. And we're going to sand it up to 400. I'll do the back side. Maybe I'll try to show you some of that too. Alright, it's time to put some finish on this, and because Padauk is really prone to bleed into the other woods, I like to use spray-on lacquer. And I like to put real light coats on, almost like an overspray, because if you put it on heavy, it's going to bleed into the piece next to it. So this is pretty much what I do, like that. Not much more than that. And maybe I'll do that a couple times. And then we come back and put it on heavier, or even use a different finish over the top of this. So that's long enough. Do it again. And I can just start getting a little heavier with it. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Well, it's all done, and I'm pretty happy with it turned out, and I'll let you decide what you think. So here it is. I think it looks pretty cool. It's made out of Padauk and cherry. Here's the bottom, and I actually used a piece of purple heart for a little base, which I originally cut a recess in here so I'd have a way to mount it. Finished 9.5 inches in diameter. It's 3.5 inches tall. The walls are right at about 5/16 of an inch. I started by spraying 2 very light coats of depth lacquer on it. That's what I've worked out to do a good job of sealing the Padauk so it won't bleed into the wood next to it. After that, I sprayed it 3 more times with nice heavy coats, and then I went over it with the Axe abrasive paste just to smooth everything out. And like I say, I'm pretty happy with how it went together. The joints went together really nicely, closed up for the most part. And I did get 2 blanks out of this while I made it, and I have other videos where I do this and freehand cut them. I can put links in the description for that. But if you're interested, like I said, this wasn't my original design, and after I cut this, I decided, well, let me see if I can put the original design in it. And it wasn't as easy as cutting the rings, but it was pretty much cutting the rings. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments, and I'll show you exactly how I did that, and I'll show you exactly how you can use your blank for your cutting fixture, which I thought was pretty cool. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. I know that I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, I'd appreciate it if you'd take a couple seconds and give it a thumbs up. Also, I'd really enjoy hearing from you, so if you'd like to leave a comment, tell me what you think about it, that'd be fantastic. And if you'd like to see me do the other half and explain in more detail on how you can make one of these, I'd be happy to do it, so let me know that in the comments as well. If you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you'd consider doing so. For all you current subscribers, thank you very, very much. So, till the next time, see you later.